Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. I've got a special, awesome guest on today. I actually, for like 2 years, tried to get her on, and she reminded me that it's my fault that we didn't do it, which is actually true. I went back and looked at the thread, and it was like, she'd be like, whenever you want. And then I'd be like, hey, when are you going to be on the podcast? And she'd say, whenever you want. So it was me. I dropped the ball. Jessica Penne. I pronounce your name correctly? Penne, like pasta?
That's completely acceptable, yes.
Well, how would you pronounce it?
The same way that you just did.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, sometimes people, like, I ask them how to say their name, and they're like, that's fine. And I'm like, well, like, is there like another way I should be saying it? And like, they just accept me mispronouncing it. So penne, like the pasta. I got it.
I like the pasta, yep.
So Jessica, for those of you that don't know, is a professional UFC fighter. You're like 17 pro fights now?
A little bit more than, I think I'm at 20 actually.
Do you fight with those nails?
No, I'm injured right now, so I got nails put on. So
got your nails did?
Yeah, so I can be a girl for like a week or two while I'm healing up. Won't be tempted to do anything stupid and try and box or grapple or anything like that.
So the notion that like a woman that likes to do combatives or fight and she's like all butch and doesn't want to be a lady is not correct.
No, I think that was blown out of the water like a while ago.
I'm just surmising for those that don't know female fighters. So you're saying no.
I'm saying no.
You and I met a couple of years ago. You came to a class with our mutual friend, Tracy Lee. We were doing a pistol class out in, I think we were in Azusa, California.
Yeah, correct.
What the heck's the name of that place? I forget the name of that range up there. It's a cool little range up in the mountains. I was excited to meet you. I threatened to fight with you. You wouldn't do it, and I still think you're scared. Actually, I wouldn't mess with you. You're a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, correct?
Yes, I am.
That's pretty rad. Years of training and doing that, at certain points, I'm trying to phrase this without sounding sexist because most of our listeners are young men. Was it ever like, what the hell am I doing? I'm like totally deep into a man's world.
No, never.
No?
I never questioned it. I just finally found something that I was driven towards and motivated to do. So there really wasn't any stopping me. I really didn't care. But it was difficult because I started at a time where I was, there was only one in like per gym. So it was really hard to train because I was always, the smallest and But I
weakest.
Not the weakest. I mean, you can say weakest, but I was definitely the most technical. And
that was just a joke. I was talking with my wife the other day because there's a jiu-jitsu gym here in town. The owner's wife, fiance, she's probably about your size, little tiny thing. And I was laughing watching her just rip dudes to shreds. I mean, she's on the mat 30 hours a month probably. She trains very hard for a person that's not a fighter. She's got a professional career in the medical field. And I was laughing because she's probably 50 or 80 pounds lighter than some of the other guys that she's rolling with, just tearing them to shreds. That's kind of the beauty of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right?
Definitely. It's said to be, the weaker man's sport. I have run into people that, I just can't move. But in theory, there is supposed to be, the use of leverage and skill. Size doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. So what gets a woman into that? I mean, most humans don't like getting hit. So it takes a special...
No, it's not natural at all. It's not.
Yeah. And it's very, I think it's even more unnatural. Like I've met ladies that are even like college basketball or volleyball. They're a different sort of woman because they're getting banged up and beat up and and, working and grinding it out. What attracted you to possibly getting teeth cracked out and stuff?
I actually never thought about it that way. I've
No?
never really once worried about my safety or what would happen. And I think that's, why I'm able to do it, because my my safety, my health have never really been in the forefront of my mind.
So
I guess if I had thought about it, then it wouldn't be for me.
You're not fearful of that. That makes sense. So could you tell us like what the impetus was to you training and ultimately becoming a professional UFC fighter, which is pretty darn cool?
Honestly, it was just a natural progression of things. I always played sports. I was always athletically inclined, but I didn't really love the sports that I was doing. I was just good at them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 23, by chance, I found a gym that had, kickboxing and MMA type workouts. And I've always been pretty introverted and not very outgoing. So it took me a little bit to get in there, but once I did, I didn't leave, and it honestly changed my whole outlook on myself, my life. It was very positive driving force in every aspect of my life. When I found MMA. Would
you talk about that a little bit? It's interesting, and a lot of I call them like the strip mall dojos. A lot of what those guys sell, and I'm not knocking any martial art or dojo, but a lot of what they're selling like to young people is that mindset change and that cultivation of self. How did that work for you? What was that changed you?
Like I said, I had never really had any drive or anything towards school or towards anything really. I mean, I just used to kind of get by and just, float on and see what happened. And mixed martial arts was the first thing that I knew was the direction that I wanted to go in. And as soon as I found it, I found drive for everything else. It's just like, it really, it was just a catalyst for me in everything. So
I just had a discussion. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no, it's okay.
You said you appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate what it's done for me. Even though it's been a very difficult road. Lots of highs, but even more lows. But it's really shaped me into the person that I am today, and it's given me a lot.
What do you mean by more lows? That sounds like,
Well, no, lows are learning lessons. Lows. There's always something on a low that you're meant to find and learn from. Some people let the lows break them and, make them quit. But for me, the lows have been learning experiences, like invaluable learning lessons. And those lessons and experiences have made me a very strong person and given me direction and self-respect, and I appreciate every single low.
I'm the same way. It's an interesting thing to kind of muse on, because I think most average folks look at like a hardship or a potential failure or something that got, and they're like, I don't want that. I don't want any more of that. I just want stuff to be smooth and easy. And they don't look at, I think that Napoleon Hill talked about failure having the seed of an equivalent benefit. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. But why do you think most people don't gather that?
Because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like getting punched in the face.
It can be very uncomfortable. Yeah, I think humans are kind of, I don't know, have come to realize that the comfort zone is a safe place, even if your safe place is technically uncomfortable and is just allowing you to kind of tread water and not grow. It's still safer and less scary than adventuring into the unknown. And I just, I don't want to do anything that's safe or something that, just anybody can do. I would rather try and fail and try again than just sit in my comfort zone.
What is it about doing something anybody can do that you don't like? What's the deal there?
What's that old saying? It's not worth doing if it's not difficult, or something.
I gotcha.
Something to that effect.
I got you. So status quo does not entice you or attract you.
No, not at all.
The mundane. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a brother like that. He got out of the Army, and he and I are very similar, except he has different interests. Like, he decided that he wanted to become a professional skydiver, and I'm like, all right, I'll learn to fly a plane and you can jump out of it. And now he like jumps off of everything, and that's taken him into like the rock climbing world, and now he's shooting photography for like cool like photos for like outdoor clothing companies where he has to climb 1,000 foot up a rock face and hang there and take cool pictures. And for him, it's all about like pushing his envelope of fear. Like, that's his motivation. So it's like he and I muse on that, the idea of like, if you told me like go work a job and like get a good pay and a 401k and retire one day, I was like, get me a rope. I want to hang myself right now. I want to like, no, thank you. Yeah. Is that kind of what you're thinking about or talking about?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel that you can always, go make money somewhere. You can always, figure out a way to survive. But I'm more focused on life experiences. And I think that all of these difficulties or, trying things that a lot of people can't do, I think it builds character. And I think it really lets you know who you are. And I don't think a lot of people know who they are and what they're capable of.
I think that comes back to the same thing we were just talking about, is they're scared to know.
Definitely. There's a lot of fear and anxiety that go into what I do, but I do it despite those feelings and thoughts. And I don't think a lot of people do that.
You're saying people, other competitors or other professional fighters, they are, or are you talking about human beings in general, do not approach things that they're fearful of?
I think that it takes a special kind of person to approach things that they are fearful of.
So you're saying you're special?
My parents tell me I'm special all the time.
Let's go back a second. So you've got like 20 pro fights. I'm assuming you had to have tons of not pro fights in order to, nobody just says, hey, you're awesome, come be a UFC fighter, right?
Back when I started fighting, there were no amateur organizations. You had to go pro. So there were a couple of, amateur kickboxing fights that I did, and there were jiu-jitsu tournaments that I did. But again, at the time that I started, there just weren't female competitors. So it was very hard to find competition.
Gotcha.
It was hard to find somebody my size because I am on the smaller size. So that was always an issue. So my only option was to have a pro fight if that's what I wanted to do. So I had a pro fight. I had no idea what to expect. I had no expectations, no understanding of what I was actually doing, but I just signed up and I did it.
Wow. Now, if memory serves, I glanced at your record. Like, you beat ass your first like 7 or 8 fights or something, right?
Yeah, I went.
My words, not yours.
I went 7 in a row undefeated, and then
That's awesome.
My 8th fight, I had my first loss, and that was in the first and only Bellator all women's tournament, and that was when when people started taking, the weight cutting thing very seriously. So there were huge females in the tournament, and I realized that I was actually an atom weight in that tournament. So it was a positive. It was a good learning
What is
experience.
an atom weight? What's that
105
weight?
pounds.
Okay. And like now you're fighting at that same weight, or are you bigger now?
No, I had to go up there. I could either be a big fish in a small pond and fight at 105, or I could go up and challenge myself. And I'm definitely one of the smaller females at strawweight, but it's where the opportunities are. So that's where I am.
Why don't they use the same names that they use for men? Atom weight and strawweight?
They do.
Oh, they do.
There's just no atom weight and strawweight in the UFC for men because it's 105, 115, but flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, those are all.
Okay. You're below all of them.
Yes.
I gotcha.
Teeny tiny.
You ever been knocked out, like legitimately knocked out?
No.
No. You ever had your bell run like that though in a match or in training where you saw stars and blacked out?
For sure. Not blacked out. Again, I haven't been knocked out. Knock on wood. But I've been dazed. There was one fight, I think it was my third or fourth fight, and I had the girl's back. I had a rear naked choke, and she stood up and she jumped back, and I hit the back of my head. So I was a little.
Holy smokes!
I was a little dazed. Yeah, that's not.
She dug deep.
Yeah, she dug deep. She was I actually still talk to her to this day. Her name is Sumi Sakai, and she's a Japanese pro wrestler. So she did all sorts of funky, unorthodox things and caught me off guard with that one.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, luckily she didn't realize that I was actually dazed.
You fought through it.
I did, and it was kind of a scary feeling because I really didn't know what was going on. But I just knew that I couldn't move and everything was kind of in slow motion. But what seemed like forever was only a couple of seconds, so it was able to, get back into it.
Did you have an adrenaline dump, you think, when that happened? Or are you already at that point all adrenalized in the ring?
You're already adrenaline.
Okay.
Like your adrenaline's already going.
Yeah. I only ask because, we talk about in our training courses things like tachypsychia where time and space compress and expand. And like you thought it was this big, long thing. I'm sure you watched the tape and it was just a couple of seconds, like you said, right? Were you like, whoa, what the hell? Like you're on the ground having a conversation with yourself and then you see it later. Was that surreal?
It was. And I mean, in the moment, I'll never forget the way I felt. I just felt like weak and everything was slow. And, it was like I was in outer space or in water. It was a very freaky thing. Is
that somewhere that we can look it up and watch it?
I'm sure. Actually, I don't know that I've ever. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of watching my fights, so I don't even remember the last time I saw it. But
what was her name that you were fighting? What was her name?
Sumi Sakai, and it was in Fatal Femmes. It was the first all-women's organization. It only had a few shows, and then it fell off. But
got it. I'm writing it down. I might look that up. I think that's a pretty good lesson for average Joe, average Jane. That somebody just sent me something today where a guy walked up and sucker punched a guy on a park bench, and you got a referee to stop somebody from murdering you in the ring, but out in the street, you're dazed like that, and if you can't compose yourself to work through it, you could be in a bad place real quick.
Definitely.
So you're a black belt, which means to the layman, you have reached a level where now you can teach and pass this stuff on, right? So do you teach the jiu-jitsu?
I'm not currently teaching jiu-jitsu, like in a class format, but because I am the only female black belt at my gym, I do coach and teach my female training partners. And I recently belted my very, very good friend, training partner, and co-host of our podcast, Angela Hill. I belted her a blue belt. So that was very emotional and special. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
While you just mentioned that, just to throw that out there, what's your podcast called?
It's called Two Straws, and it is on YouTube, and it's kind of like a shade show. We just go make fun of everything MMA, and we have a lot of fun, and we have a cocktail while we're doing it. And it's a good time. Honestly, it's really fun. And it's pretty awesome how much positive feedback we've gotten from the MMA community, because the MMA community can be quite relentless. And yeah, they don't hold anything back. So it's been very well received, and we love our fans and we really appreciate it.
I think I just saw you post something that you guys are going to be recording some new ones soon too.
Yeah, we are. We had a little hiatus just because holidays and fight camps and all that kind of stuff. And then we just recently moved into a new studio, so we need to get some new equipment to, better microphones and stuff like that. So
spice it up.
Yes, definitely. But we're really excited and we love doing it. So it's a lot of fun. So
your entire livelihood comes from fighting. What happens as you, and not to talk about age, but at some point you're not going to get in a ring, right? What's your plan? Do you have one at this point?
Yeah, I'm actually part of what I've always wanted to do. I've found an outlet into MMA, and that is doing analyst work, broadcasting. That was my major in college, was communication. And I've always wanted to do broadcasting work, journalism kind of stuff. So we're kind of, doing something that goes along with that, which I love. And I've had the opportunity to work on UFC Now. I've done behind the scenes interviews for a fight show. I've done color commentary for a fight show. So I'm looking for that kind of work, and that's what I'd like to, eventually get into after fighting.
Did I read, or am I mistaken, that you were on like one of the UFC TV shows?
Yeah, that's UFC Now.
Okay, that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's an online show on Fight Pass, and I've been on there, I want to say like 15 times.
So you guys talk about whatever fights are happening that night, put your 2 cents in about how they're going to go down and all that.
Yeah, we have a specific format. We just, have fun, talk about fighting, plug the fighters and the upcoming big fights.
One of the things that I wanted to chat about with you, because there's probably nobody better that I know to talk about it, is average ladies wanting to be safer. You attended my course, and I think I'm assuming you got out of it that you have to be pretty serious about your training with firearms. And it annoys me when guys will do these, I say guys because that's where I see it, like weekend seminar for women's self-protection. Don't get raped in parking lots, $499. And like the ladies go with a bunch of their friends, and it's like the dumbest stuff, like, and then these women feel like they've somehow developed like skills to defend themselves against violent predators. But not every woman's going to dedicate years of her life to do what you've done. So like, what's the happy medium? Where should a gal go? I don't mean like a specific place, but what's really required?
Just there, I think there's a lot required. To make yourself safe, you have to put in, the work to protect yourself. It takes a lot, like we were saying, how fighting isn't natural, like getting punched in the face isn't natural. Well, we do have this fight or flight kind of thing. And if sometimes it's not trained into you, you don't have it, and you put yourself in a very vulnerable position because of it. So I think it's important for women to brush up on self-defense all the time. If, you are not against firearms, then I think firearms are a great thing to get comfortable with. And just like any kind of skill, I remember the first time I held a gun, I was, pretty nervous. So it's something that you have to like really train yourself in constantly. I know if I haven't fired mine in a while, I, can fumble around, and in a stressful real life situation, that can only be magnified. So I think it's important for females, especially to, make sure that they're safe at all times. There's a lot more that goes into it too. Just not putting yourself in those kind of positions if it's avoidable, and making sure that you know how to protect yourself.
It's interesting to me. I've watched it happen and so many times. This is the third time I've said this, and now I sound like it might be real, but this isn't a sexist comment. But I've watched it happen, like being in a bar. I got a family member, female family member, this is years ago, and everybody's getting drunk, and some dude's trying to hit on her, and she's getting annoyed, and she like starts hitting him and pushing him. And I'm like, holy shit, like you can't just hit some stranger in a bar. But yeah, a lot of times, especially young girls when drinking, they think they can get away with certain things because, like, well, he can't hit me. And this guy was going to literally beat her up. And, like, you're dealing with drunk people and such. But oftentimes it feels like in this modern world that we live in, I'm trying to say this where it makes good sense. It seems like a lot of times women, because of laws, men do it too in other ways, but just in the context of what we're talking about, they feel like they can get away with saying or doing certain things that maybe they wouldn't do if they weren't angry or upset, not realizing that the person in front of them might be some psychopath criminal that doesn't give a shit, and then they end up beat up or, God forbid, raped or killed. And I'm not saying like just shut your mouth and mind your business. I'm along the lines of what you're saying. Don't put yourself in those situations. But like, how do you train that? I can't tell a woman, shut your mouth and walk away, because it'd be like, I'd sound like some sexist pig.
Yeah, it's hard. It's difficult. And again,
you've seen happen what I'm talking about, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. And I mean, when I was younger and rowdy and drinking, I know I've gotten in a guy's face before, and I'm lucky that I wasn't, laid out. Like I really am. Yeah. But through fighting and training, I've learned a lot of self-discipline and self-respect, and it's also really opened my eyes to, you never know who trains, you never know who's capable of what. Yeah. So I don't put myself in those situations because I never want to be on the wrong end of it. Yeah. And it's for me it was a maturity thing, and I think for a lot of people it is, but there are people that I think are very lucky that they haven't, been on the receiving end of some of those really bad incidences.
A life correction by a scumbag.
Exactly.
Yeah. So back to my question, like, what's a gal to do? So I think like the paying attention, not being in the places that you're not supposed to be in, and all that stuff is a given. Like that stuff, like if you're even thinking about like carrying a gun or learning to physically fight, you should be thinking about that. But for a gal that says, okay, I've got all that, but what if some dude grabs me while I'm pumping gas, or accosts me in the parking lot, or breaks into my home? I mean, at some point, somebody puts hands on you, the rest of it's out the window, right? So where does somebody go for that? Should everybody just go study jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, like become the thing? Is there other paths?
There are. I mean, there's tons of outlets. There's more, I think, realistic street self-defense. Like there's Krav Maga. There's different kinds of.
That's the first time I've ever heard an MMA practitioner ever say that.
It's but it's user friendly. Like I wouldn't use it to train for an MMA fight, but I think for everyday people that it could be useful. It teaches you some moves that could save your life. Mm-hmm. It does. Not everybody is going to square up with their hands in front of you like a boxer or a Muay Thai person, or be willing to go to the ground with you like a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Sometimes you have to like learn some things that are a little bit orthodox and a little bit more brutal and a little bit more realistic for that kind of situation.
Right on. That makes sense. I actually got a buddy that teaches Krav down in Phoenix area, and it just seems like every time I've asked somebody that's in the MMA world, they're like, eh. So it's interesting that you.
Well, that's for MMA.
Right. So that's a good. I've heard this discussion. I got buddies that are like lifelong judo guys or kung fu guys. I know you practice judo as well. which is actually how you busted your foot up, right?
Yes.
You were supposed to be fighting like this weekend or what? This weekend?
I was supposed to fight Sunday the 17th in Phoenix.
Okay. Oh, a couple days ago.
Yeah, I actually injured myself on fight day a few hours before I fought. We're supposed to fight.
You dislocated your ankle?
I dislocated my right ankle. Yeah.
You could do some Mr. Miyagi stuff and
No, I really tried to walk it off, and we went straight up to the room and elevated and iced it, and the pain and the swelling just kept progressing, and we called the UFC doctor, and he said that's a grade 2 sprain, and he doesn't recommend that I fight, and my team agreed with them, so I did not fight, but I am rebooked. I'm getting my imaging tomorrow on my ankle to make sure that nothing's broken or, just to see how bad it is.
I can't imagine. So like you work for months, right? To get down to that 15, 20 minutes, 5 minutes in the cage. And then 10 minutes or an hour before to have to not go forward and tell your opponent that. How's that? I mean, I'm sure it's not fun.
It's pretty rough, but, I allowed myself 30 minutes to an hour to, cry and scream and throw a fit about it. But now I just have to kind of laugh it off,
Okay.
It's just, it just was not meant to be. But I'm going to use it as a dress rehearsal, and I'm booked again for April 27th in Miami. So I'll use all of that and just put it towards my next fight.
You able to walk on it?
I can limp. I was on crutches for a few days, but I can actually put a little bit more pressure on it now. It's like reached its maximum swelling, and it's blue, so it's definitely starting to heal.
Brutal. Is it going to be healed in a month and a half? Will it be ready to go?
We are intending to have, a few weeks to let it heal, and then a short 6-week camp.
April. I'm thinking March. Okay, you got a couple months.
My friend and teammate Angela fights at the end of March, so I'd really like to heal up fast so I can, be able to help her out with a camp. So I'm just going to take care of myself the best that I can and heal up as fastly as I can.
Being a professional athlete's got to be tough. You've got your diet, exercise. Like slip on a banana peel and you're out of business, right?
I know. And this was a move that I've done. I've drilled this move 100 times, more than 100 times. And I just so happened to misstep and dislocate my ankle. It's pretty crazy, pretty wild. But I just have to, kind of accept it and move on. I can't, dwell on it or have any shame about it because I can't change it.
That kind of goes back to what you said as we began talking about working through they have an issue or a problem or a challenge and learn from it and move on. Right?
Definitely. Yeah.
It takes a big person to do that. A lot of people would have something like that and throw their hands up.
Yeah. And I can understand how easily that happens too. There's, you get into that victim mentality, that defeated thing. Why is this happening to me? And it's really easy to spiral out of control, but I will not allow myself to do that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like once you know where that takes you to go into that place, you think about like, why am I doing this? Because it feels good. And then the other side of your brain's like, cut it out, asshole. Like you're being a baby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy that's the comfort zone though. Like that's that comfort zone that I'm talking about. Like your body wants to protect itself. It wants to stay there, even though it's actually harmful and holding you back. It's familiar. So you stay there.
Until you develop the ability to just bounce and keep pushing, then that becomes the familiar.
Yes.
Yeah. I have probably spent years of my life hiding from life, from problems, all told, especially as a younger man. Like, life would kick me in the dick and I'd freaking come up with 100 reasons to not try again. And then eventually you do it. But I got to the point now where it's like I don't even want to take that hour to lick the wounds. Because it's like, what for what? I mean, in your case, that's different. You're a girl, but let it jag off, huh?
Oh, what an asshole.
Totally.
For me, like, if I don't allow myself to feel, then that's repressing, and it'll still come up, So I definitely believe in letting myself feel those emotions and just, all right, it's done, get it out, move on.
That makes good sense. I agree with that. I think I would do the same thing. Maybe I don't need to do it in the same way. I used to like lose my shit, man, like throw things and break things, like a baby. Yeah. Like I'd be all pissed off and have a big temper tantrum. And so I think that's why I've taught myself to go the other way, like where I'm like a boat on a calm sea, like nothing. And I still lose my temper from time to time, but I don't like myself to start to give in to that and satiate my desire to be a temper tantrum brat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm sure everybody around you appreciates it.
Yeah, I mean, many of the people around me these days don't know, but I was the asshole that had punched my car door,
Oh God.
Not like regularly, but like that kind of stuff. I grew up a little different. So, you learn these behaviors on how you deal with frustration or anger until somebody teaches you otherwise, or you sort it out on your own.
For sure. Yeah.
What would you say to, like, not every girl is going to want to do what you do, but I am the firm believer in anything that you've done to become a world-class fighter, somebody could apply to becoming a world-class doctor. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree.
The same, like working through adversity, applying yourself to a goal, coming up with steps to reach that goal, applying action, self-assessment, all that stuff. So what would you say to, I think it's cool to see a woman doing stuff like this, especially in a, like, again, not to sound insulting, like every young girl I know is like, I'm going to be a nurse. Well, why don't you want to be a doctor? What's wrong with being a doctor? Like, why should you have to be a nurse? I'm going to be the dental hygienist. Why don't you be the dentist? It's almost like we're programmed to, like, for girls to be like the chick that helps the guy who does the job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to hold themselves low instead of high.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I say I agree that's just kind of ingrained in us. Just like, for little girls to all like pink and purple, like they don't have a choice. That's just what's given to them. Boys like blue, girls like pink.
Right.
Boys are supposed to grow up and be doctors and lawyers, and the women are supposed to be just a step under. And I see that all the time. And as like progressive as we've gotten, that still is kind of, it's a lingering belief that we have.
I don't want to talk outside my lane because I'm not a specialist in it, but I have a friend that studies this is studying it for a thesis for college. And it's like the disparity between male and female in the workplace. And the data is pretty astounding. Like, okay, women make less money. And then he's got all this data, like they also work less. They also go to less school. They also take more days off for sick time. Like, these aren't his numbers. They're legit numbers. And you look at it and it's like, well, okay, there's reasons that they're like a guy will justify being away from his kids because they're working. Or most moms will say, well, I've got to take off and raise my kids, or I'm not going to apply for the better, higher position because it'll take more time away. And dad will say, well, that's just the way it is. I got to do it. I got to make the bacon, so to speak. But like, taking all of that out of the equation, it's still like we've ingrained in young women, in my opinion, that they can't strive to be whatever they want to be.
I could definitely see why you think that, and I can definitely see that still exists in certain households. Again, I think it's better than it has been in the past. You know, we're not
Heck
just
yeah.
expected to stay home barefoot in the kitchen. But I don't know. I think that, you know, this younger generation should be told that they can do anything that they want to do, and the sky's the limit.
I agree. I explain that to my daughter. What I under the caveat of as long as it makes you happy and isn't hurting anybody. Like if she wanted to do what you do, cool. You know you might get a tooth busted out and not always have a nice smile. You know, that's just the trade-off. But if on the same token, if she wants to be an astronaut, I explained to her, you better get better grades in algebra because your algebra sucks. You know, so it's true. There's a trade-off. There's a trade-off. She's got a good role model here. Her stepmom, my wife, is a corporate gal that's got 20 years at a company. She's a director of a large company with hundreds of people in it. And just listening to her stories over the years, having to fight against like the dudes in the industry, I'm sure that is there like an underlying theme of that even in the fight world? Well, you probably can't say shit because you'll be talking here, recording it, but like, you know, the promotions, the pay, is there a disparity of pay there? And if so, go ahead.
There's a disparity of pay between the people who are the entertainers. There's definitely disparity against that. I haven't.
What do you mean by the entertainers?
Well, like you have the talkers, you have the McGregors and the Covingtons and those people. Those are, yeah. Of course, they're going to get more attention. It's easier to market them. They market themselves. As far as like the male female, I feel like it's pretty fair in the UFC, but you are, you know, paid based on who you are and how you perform. Back in the dark days of women's MMA, when I started, you really wouldn't have a chance to get on a show unless you were like really good at self-marketing yourself and posting hot pictures and, you know, being the hot girl on the card. And you were kind of a novelty though, because there was only one female bout allowed on a card. So you would have to really stand out, and how you stood out was, you know, being pretty and vocal.
I see.
But no, I feel like those days have changed as far as like in the big organizations. I haven't, women are having a lot more opportunities to fight. They have a lot more organizations that, you know, we have all female organization like Invicta, which I used to fight in. The UFC has allowed has opened up the weight classes for females, which is amazing. Same with, you know, all these other organizations. They're not just putting a female fight on the card for, you know, for whatever appeal it is, but they're actually having women's divisions, which is huge.
Okay. How many women fight in the UFC? Is there like a roundabout number?
I don't know how many in each division. I mean, I know it's significantly less than the men. Yeah. But the fact that they've opened up all of these weight classes when they told us that we would never be is pretty amazing.
Has there ever been a fight between a man and a woman?
I'm sure there has.
Yeah. Would you ever fight a dude? Like,
no.
If there wasn't a disparity of weight?
No, because I have had male training partners that were, you know, relatively close to my size, or, you know, fought at 125 or 115, and there's a definite strength advantage, which just because it just is what it is.
Dudes are stronger. I'm just joking. I talk about that with chicks in our classes because they're like, oh, I'd punch him in the nuts. I don't give a shit. Like, even the scrappy little twerpy dorky guy is stronger than most average women just by the design of our physiology. It's not sexism. God, I keep saying that, so now I totally sound like one. I'm gonna have to Drew edit the shit out of this. But a lot of chicks don't like hearing that. It's like, well, tell it to your dentist when you're getting your teeth fixed, or tell it to Tell it to your kids in your will, because mom got killed because she thought which is why I like guns, which is, you know, it is a great equalizer. 105-pound woman against two 200-pound men. If you have the skills to like make a sandwich per se, that was an awesome joke. I was trying to work that.
Fail. That one flopped.
I was going to I'm getting over a cold. What I was going to say is like basic skills though with a gun. If you can acquire a sight and shoot somebody, not that that's what we want to do, but I thought you were flicking me off. I thought that no. A woman can equalize that great disparity of force, which is pretty damn cool that science has allowed us to do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you training at all?
No,
Are you pissed right now about my sandwich joke?
Not pissed. Takes more than that to make me pissed.
What does it take to piss you off? I don't want to piss you off.
I don't know. Just when it happens, you'll know.
Right. You're into horses, right? You ride horses?
Yeah, I rescued 3 horses.
Oh, wow.
I have 3 mares.
Rescued like somebody that owned them couldn't take care of them?
Correct.
Were they sick or malnourished or anything?
When I got them, they were very malnourished. Very, very skin and bone. But they are happy and healthy and chubby now.
Do you have them at your property or are they boarded somewhere?
They're boarded down in Imperial Beach, which is pretty close to the TJ border. And it's 5-10 minutes from my place.
Okay.
So
you live way down south.
Way down south, yeah. I would love to have them on my property, but it's just not an option right now.
Okay. Horse property is probably crazy expensive down in that part of the world.
Yeah, there are some places in Bonita, which is the neighboring city, and that's a little bit north, but there really aren't great trails there, so it's kind of pointless to have a horse. And then all the other properties that would be like nice and decent are like really far inland and far away from where I need to be. And right now I live a mile from the gym where I train at, and that's why I'm down here.
That sounds pretty fantastic. You can like jog there.
I could, if I could walk. Yeah, I would jog.
Skate? Well,
no.
Wheelchair?
No. Hands would get.
Well, I mean, you're not training. Are you training right now with the busted foot?
No, that's why I have nails.
That's what I thought. So that's why
there's a girl in it.
I get it. What do you do for fun?
Not much. I hang with my animals. I have 2 dogs, 3 horses. So I like to go down to the ranch and hang with them and ride. I love so I have,
you broke up. You love what?
Board games and puzzles. Really? So I have game nights on Saturdays at my place with some of my
teammates.
There's
like a bunch of badass fighters hanging out playing like Monopoly.
Yeah, pretty much.
I hate Monopoly. I hate it.
I'm not a fan of Monopoly, but the new this new game that's been out, Catan, which is kind of like a strategy Monopoly game.
Okay.
But it's super cool. Like the board always changes, so it's always a different strategy you have to have.
So you guys get together, get some cocktails in you, and play board games.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
That sounds like fun.
It's adult fun. Yeah. I'm not a club kind of gal. I don't really go out much. Kind of a homebody.
Waste of energy. One of my sisters is totally into the board games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah. I don't. I'm like you though. I don't like to go out. Friends will invite me to go like drink or something. And it's like I can sit in my basement like an adult alone and drink. Okay. And I do. I got a jukebox with a bunch of 70s and 80s music on it, and I'll sit down here and tip away and push the buttons. That's all you need. Yeah,
I've spent many a weekend nights watching my murder shows with a glass of wine in bed by 10.
The older I get, the more I enjoy solitude. On my road trips, I'm alone all the time, and it might be, and I travel for training, I'll be alone for a week other than when I'm in class and people like, oh, I feel sorry. I'd come drive with you. It's like, I don't actually want you with me. Like I'm totally good alone in my truck for 2,000 miles. That makes me happy.
Yeah, definitely.
Having to placate somebody's, I need a snack and they want to talk the whole time and shut the I was totally just looking at stuff here, minding my own business, and you're talking.
Yeah, I don't know why people feel like they have to fill the silence. I'm like, it's perfectly fine. I can go a day without saying a word.
I'm a total talker. I wouldn't, deny that. But it's like I enjoy this. I think that's why I enjoy solitude, because I do this. I'm teaching and talking like crazy, or I'm on the phone for work talking like crazy. So like if I'm on the road trip, I just kind of like disconnect.
Nice decompression time.
Yeah, exactly. Just let go. I don't want to have to constantly be going and going.
I get it.
I started to ask you, what advice for young girls? It doesn't even need to be young girls, women in general. Like if I said, Jessica, I'm about to record you, and for the rest of eternity, there will be a button a young woman or old could push to get advice from somebody that's achieved great things, and you have like a couple paragraphs, and they push that button, and you say it, what would you say? That's pretty heavy duty shit right there.
That's pretty heavy. I would say never give up on yourself, no matter what. I would say that shame is the breaker of dreams.
Shame is the breaker of dreams.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shame. I'm gonna write that down. Keep going.
And I would say always do your best. It's pretty simple.
Did you come up with that?
I think so. I just said it.
The breaker of dreams. That just popped in your head, or is that something that you've mused on? Is something somebody shared? I've never heard it before, and I had to say it 3 or 4 times to. I wasn't questioning why you said it. It was like, man, that's pretty deep shit.
Well, I've been doing a lot of work on myself, a lot of like emotional intelligence work, and been listening to a lot of, audiobooks and going to a lot of classes and stuff like that. So that's something that I have, just kind of acquired through my learning.
Mm-hmm. I dig it. What does that mean for the person that's listening to it?
Well, for me, I have allowed a lot of shame, like a lot of baggage that I've acquired, throughout my life, really be the reason why I never, tried certain things or was afraid to do certain things. And once I was able to just let go of shame, I was able to like really find myself and find my voice. And it's made all the difference to me.
That is deeply powerful to me as I'm sitting here. That's what I'll title this podcast as. Matt, I spent years ashamed of choices that I've made. And the comical thing is I realized at one point, most of the people around me have no idea what the hell I'm shameful about. Like it's all self-imposed junk.
It is.
Yeah. Like, or it'd be like, what if they found out? What if they found out like what's really inside of me or the things I've done?
Yeah. Once you speak it and once you, give it a name, you really take away its power. And so all of these things that you're afraid of, people, not knowing or these secrets that you're keeping, like it's just weighing you down. And once you let go of it, you feel so much lighter.
It's freaking beautiful. I dig it. I appreciate you sharing that. So for a young girl, don't give up on herself.
Mm-hmm.
Shame is a breaker of dreams. And the last one was?
Always do your best.
Always do your best. That's some pretty some pretty simple and extremely profound stuff right there. Like, imagine if we all just did our best, like from washing the dishes to relationships or anything else. Like I don't know how many times or a situation's got, and if I'm honest and I look and I go like, what part did I have in this? Because of course I don't always do that. I just blame it on the other person. But like, if I'm honest and I really think, it's like, man, what a stupid asshole. Like, it was something so dumb. Like, if I had just shut my mouth or not done whatever the thing was, like, I can always see like where the wheels fell off. And usually it's my fault, like, especially with my wife. But like those types of relationship things or, whatever, jobs, like if like that wasn't my best, like not by a long shot. And if I was actually even thinking about that, like how much different would life become or the outcome of our life?
Yeah. And I mean, we're human. Like as much work as we put in, as many tools as we acquire to make ourselves better, we're still human and, we may fumble. But what you were just talking about, like, is accountability. Like, if you just are accountable for your actions, you take responsibility and you clear things, it takes away its power and you can move on and grow. But a lot of people don't like to admit that they're wrong or that they've done something. It's crazy how hard it is for some people to apologize. It really is. We all make mistakes, and sometimes an apology, like a sincere, heartfelt apology, can mean the world, make a difference. I
agree. I know for you, I've been guilty 1,000 times of being the guy that couldn't admit to that.
Yeah. No, it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, but.
You got to deal with something?
Yeah, my dog wants to go outside.
Well, I can cut you loose. I appreciate your time. It means a lot. How do people find you? So on Instagram, you've got a pretty sizable social media following there. I know that's where I see your posts about your podcast. That is your Instagram account. I'm just going to let you say it.
My Instagram account, Twitter, Facebook, everything's all the same. It's my full name, Jessica Penne.
Okay. And you guys got the YouTube stuff. What is that?
That is 2 Straws on YouTube. So, right, so YouTube / 2 Straws.
Cool. I appreciate you taking the time. I wasn't sure exactly how the discussion would go, just meaning I've never had a conversation like this with you, so I wasn't sure what we dig into or not. I think there's some profound stuff. That last bit there, I mean, male, female, whatever, that if we can learn to get over our shame, start to move in all kinds of cool directions in life. Have you a parting word?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming
Finally.
on. Yeah, my bad. Folks, if you dug this, pass it on to your friends. Share it with whoever. Put it on your Facebook page, your Twitter account. If you're watching it here on YouTube, head over to her YouTube channel and give a listen. You can listen to 2 women get hammered and make fun of other people. Sounds like all the women I've ever known in my life. Perfect. Oh my God. I'm just joking. That's funny stuff. We appreciate you guys watching. It means the world to us, and I hope that you took some value away from this. If there's something in the future that you'd like to see us talk about, shoot me an email to training@carrytrainer.com. You know how to get a hold of her. And if you're into UFC, go check out a fight. April 27th, 2019, you're fighting where?
In Miami, Florida.
Miami, Florida, sunny Miami. Cool. Hey, it was a good time. I appreciate it. You be well.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.
Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.